I'd like to recognize myself 5 minutes for my questions. Again, welcome, Administrator Jackson. I've got 4 that I'm going to try to rush through. It's very difficult, as you know. But Lynn Westmoreland, my colleague from Georgia, is in the front row, and he and I were actually emailing over the weekend based upon a budget submission. So I represent rural America. He represents rural America. So in your spending guidance for the $212, it will distribute $15 million in drinking water tech assistance. Do you agree that it does not include the congressional directive to prioritize funding that is most beneficial to small communities?
I don't agree, sir, but I would have to.
Yeah, and it's a small amount. I know it might be difficult. If you would get back to us on that, because the congressional intent was to make sure small communities would find the technical assistance most beneficial, and we think that if we can.
I actually have an answer, so if you wouldn't mind my correcting myself. EPA is not requesting funding in the 2013 budget for technical assistance because the agency believes that the states are best positioned to develop the technical assistance plans. The states are allowed to set aside 2% of their drinking water state revolving fund for small systems, and most states are using that set aside.
Okay, well, we're going to follow up on this legislatively to implement a directive asking you to consider small water applicants to demonstrate the level of support or small communities. In small-town rural America, they don't have the big ability of large municipal systems and money. So if we can work on that, I think Mr. Westmoreland would appreciate it. We'd like to talk to you about that. Now I want to go to the Superfund cleanup, speed, and funding. Sandoval Zinc Company was added to the national priorities list in 2011. It's in my district. I visited it. There are lengthy delays, obviously, when something gets on the cleanup list. Can you tell me what % of remedial budget do you spend on physical cleanup versus administrative cost? My point is this, and that's something you can get back with me too on. The point is, when we've talked with the region headquarters, I've been told numerous times we can clean this up rapidly when it's initially identified, but if it's delayed, then it gets in through the whole system. Then you have litigation, long terms, and the cost-benefit analysis of moving quicker versus later is great. Let me move to the definition of solid waste issue. Case law and state statute is pretty clear. Do you agree that RCRA applies to discarded material, disposed, abandoned, and thrown away?
The RCRA statute disposes, yeah, the waste statute. I believe that's part of the definition of waste.
Do you agree that recyclable material is not discarded for permanent disposal? It is destined for beneficial reuse?
Yes, although, as you know, the definition of recycled material is subject to certain regulatory findings.
Well, that's where we're headed. Since we agree case law and statute are clear, what specific authority do you have to change the definition of solid waste under RCRA?
Well, we can't change any statutory definition.
That's exactly what I want. That's good. That's good. We can follow up with that. But there is a fear that you are, and it affects the recycling industry, the beneficial use section. Let me, I still have a minute and a half left, and I want to get to RCRA 2002 subsection B requires you to review all regulations every 3 years. You're about to be sued by the environmental community for failure to comply with this part of the law. Do we really want an agency to go down a very costly path of reviewing regulations based on arbitrary date that will be impossible to meet? So the question is, in reviewing all regulations, is reviewing all regulations every 3 years even feasible? I mean, you've been there, you're going in your 4th year. Have you, in this 3rd year, the end of 3rd, now your 4th year, have you been able to review all EPA regulations?
I think EPA has a statutory obligation which we try to meet, but there are plenty of cases where we are not on time.
Yeah, it's actually not feasible. And then the other issue, as we're trying to analyze all these, can you give me a cost projection of what it is just to try to evaluate all these regulations within a 3-year time frame as statute requires?
Well, it is not without cost and resources. We're in the middle of the review that the President ordered to look for outdated regulations.
So, yeah, and I think that's an important point. So as we talk about this, whether you want to work with us or not, I think it would be in both of our interests if we can design a system that identifies, based upon science, problems, and then reevaluate those rules, versus just having an arbitrary 3-year review process that we can never meet, that throws us in litigation for not meeting, and that could help, it would help the administration trying to put aside things that we can do and not try to accomplish all the stuff that we're never going to be able to do. I appreciate your time, and with that, I yield back.